I'm Father Predmore. I work on the second floor of this building, Loyola Hall, and my job in the school is the chaplain to the adults in the community, the parents, the alumni, the faculty, and staff. And we try to give you pastoral opportunities, formation opportunities, spiritual opportunities. So basically, I just want you to see my face so that you know that you have some chaplaincy services. This can be if you're having questions about the faith at all. If you have any questions, whether it's a minor question or a long-term conversation you want to have, we can do that. It can be about relationship challenges that you're having, maybe with a spouse. I got into a fight again, I don't know how to resolve it, I don't know how to change certain things. We can talk about that. Relationship, conversational challenges with your boys and children. We are here for that. So we call them, Where is God in Your Life conversations. Those are available to you. In just a few minutes, I'm heading upstairs and I'm meeting with parents who I know from the high school who are in this bio-spirituality program that I'm running on Thursday mornings. On Tuesday mornings, I run a scripture class, this year focusing on Romans. What we want to do with parents is form you in the same way we're forming your boys so that there isn't a gap in the language when they get home. Oh, what did you learn about Ignatius today? Who's this guy, Peter Faber, that I'm hearing about? What are these terms when you say AMDG? What do you mean by that? So what we want to be able to do is bridge the gap. And I want you to know we're here for you for whatever purposes. So if someone's in the hospital or you just need to get some frustrations out, we're here for you. We also have a couple fun things planned as well. Like we'll do photography walks that are centering on how can I take better photographs, but how can I notice find God in all things. And so we have a couple of fun things planned throughout the year. I have this opportunity front and back which lists some of the things that we do here that you can participate in. So I'm going to leave that with Gina, and I have a sign-up sheet if you want to put your name and get on a mailing that I do. I send out a mailing on the on homilies and saints of the week and this day in Jesuit history every Saturday so that you can get it for Sunday. So it's just to open up the conversations, to take care of you a little bit. You're taking care of your sons and your children, and you're working hard. This is a chance if you need any sort of time for yourself. Come see any one of us and we'll address you. All right? Sound okay? All right, very good, thank you. And I'll leave this with Mrs. Smith.
I'm going to use that a little segue into, Father Predmore's been over at the hospital, a lot of us have been over at the hospital various times, visiting John Brennan and his parents. Just want to give you a quick update. Got a nice email from Caroline Brennan yesterday just saying that they had met with a neurologist and the news it was better than they had hoped for. We didn't have any more details other than that. Today is actually John's birthday. And so we're getting some cards and stuff over there. My plan at lunch today is we're going to try to get all the boys in the Urupe division to sing happy birthday, film it, and get that over to them. So they've been very appreciative of the everything that the community here has been doing to support them. And again, things certainly look tremendously better as of yesterday than they did 9 days ago when John first went to the hospital. So just please keep them in your prayers. I know the Mothers Guild has reached out, and lots of different ways around here that people have been reaching out. So thank you. So today, get a parent coffee. This is the first one. The 8th grade parents, some of you came to parent coffees last year. You know we do, I don't know, about 5 or so for each grade over the course of the year. In 8th grade, we sort of have 2 different types of parent coffees. One will be about sort of more issues. So we'll have, and somewhat to one minute, some of you came to last year, we'll have a 7th and 8th grade parent coffee in November, about a week before parent conferences. Just an opportunity to sort of better explain the team grading and what that looks like, because that is different than just the A, B, C, D grading. An opportunity for someone from each of the teams, because they all do it slightly differently, to be able to come in and sort of explain that. You can ask questions. And again, it's sort of two-way for us. We get some, when the questions come in, we get a better sense of, okay, how are parents seeing this? What are the difficulties and ways to improve that? And the other one we do, my favorite in the 2-year cycle, in January we do a parent coffee on sort of adolescence. And it's a great time. The 8th graders are really adolescent by January, 8th grade. So we'll do one on that and talk about that and sort of get together as parents really to talk about how do I handle my adolescents driving me crazy. So that's one side of the sort of 8th grade parent coffees. The other side really is kind of looking ahead to next year. So today we talk about the HSPT, high school placement test, we'll talk about that. And then in the end of February, we will have Kim Smith, who's the academic vice principal in high school, come in and talk to you all about the high school academic program. And then later, right after April vacation, in the beginning of May, we will have Mr. Brooks come in. He's the vice principal for student affairs. And John Mark, who's head of campus ministry, talk about what are the non-academic programs in the high school. Athletics, the other co-curriculars, the retreats, and that whole program. So just to kind of start giving you that information. We do, as we go through about this time of year, we have our open house on Sunday. We have a Saturday open house for people looking at 7th and 8th grade. We have a Sunday open house for people looking at the high school for next year. So, and you're welcome to go. If you really want to learn more about the high school, you want to take, you're thinking, I know all about Arupe, I don't know anything about the 9th to 12th grade. If you want to come in and take a tour, feel free. Or just come in and ask questions, feel free. But again, we do have some times for you throughout the year. Sometimes I'll hear from parents, they'll say, yeah, my neighbor's got an 8th grader who's applying for 9th grade, and she seems to know more about the high school than I do. And again, we try to get these times in. So again, if a parent coffee works for you, we have the academic one at the end of February and the sort of non-academic stuff at the beginning of May. But if you want to know more stuff ahead of time, feel free to go to any of the admissions events. But we will try to tailor some things that are more pertinent to people whose sons are coming up through Arupe. It's a little different experience for guys who've been here for a year or two before they go to high school. So today I want to talk about the high school placement test. Sometimes there's confusion over that. I just want to get our 8th graders will take the HSPT in December. And we just moved the day. I think it might be December 12th now. It's a day when we have an all-school liturgy. We'll have the 8th graders take the exam in the morning. We'll do an 8th grade liturgy for them in the afternoon. It's often December 8th, but I think that's a Sunday this year, so that's why we're doing the 12th. So high school placement test, similar to the ISEE that your sons took in 6th grade, or if they got 8th grade, they took in 7th grade. It's a standardized test. It's all multiple choice. There are 5 sections. 2 of them are more the cognitive skills, so you have your verbal section and quantitative section. That's supposed to test sort of, in some ways, those tests are sort of set up to test how well the brain is set up to think in the way the tests do that. And then you have 3 sort of achievement sections. You get reading, math, and language. Language is really grammar. It's not foreign language, it's not French or something like that. It's just English grammar. And that's different from the ISE. The ISE did not have the language test. And just so you all know, generally speaking, language is the lowest of the 5 scores for most of the guys. And there are some other reasons for that. I'm not just blaming the boys. Some of the boys do really, really well on it. Some of it has to do with the area of the country we're in. Most of the elementary schools in this part of the country teach grammar from a whole language perspective. It's a great way to teach it. It's not necessarily a great thing for this test. If your son came through a more traditional grammar program in elementary school. This test is more geared to that. Some parts of the country still do that. This is not a part of the country that tends to be that. We've been trying to do more over the years to boost that without necessarily totally derailing what we're trying to do with the curriculum. So there's that balance all the time. But just so you know, if your son's going to study for the exam, have him do the language part. Have him do the language part more than he does the other things. Math is always our highest score. Our math scores tend to be very, very high overall. If you look, almost every student, if you look at the 5 scores, the math is his higher one. Again, doesn't mean our math program is stupendous. It just means it tends to be the highest score. So we give the test. There's a couple of reasons we give the test. Number one, well, first, let me clear up a couple things. If your son was not at BCHIGH right now, and he's applying for 9th grade, the test is used by the admissions office as one of the factors determining his acceptance. Your sons have already been accepted to BCHIGH. They're here, okay? And just like we didn't re-accept him for 8th grade, we don't re-accept him for 9th grade. He doesn't have to apply for acceptance. He's in. If there's a reason he shouldn't be in the high school, you and I will be having a conversation at some point in time. And again, a couple times, sometimes we do have that conversation just to say, hey, what do we think? Let's really look at the whole package here. Is this going to make sense for him? Is this going to be the best fit for him? But for the most part, all the students all go. They don't have to apply. This test means nothing for them as far as are they getting into the high school, which is one of the problems with the test. But so, second reason, we do get some good data from the test. It gives us, and sometimes the boys take the test. For some of the boys, they score high, both on the cognitive and the achievement test, and we say, wow, your son he's bright, and he's doing exactly as he should be, and everyone's happy. That's great. Sometimes we find they have a really high cognitive, they have really good cognitive scores, and their achievement scores are much lower, and we're thinking, why? And we just ask the question, why? And sometimes we ask that question, and we say to the parents, hey, look, this doesn't make sense. Now, the first question I ask is we say to the student, did you give up on the second half? Because it's 3 hours of testing, and sometimes they just get tired, and they get bored of it, and they think, I don't need this, and they quit halfway through. Language test is the last test. That's another reason the language test is a little lower on the score. I'd love to put it first some year just to see what that does. But, so sometimes, and again, we've had guys, I remember one mom, I said, hey, look, there's a huge gap here between the cognitive and this. Mom talked to the son and said, yeah, I just got bored. I just didn't do it. She said, yeah, I'm going to do the full battery of testing on you anyways, because I'm kind of annoyed by the fact that you did that. And it came back with nothing. But sometimes, I remember one student who was a decent student, but it was always something that wasn't quite there, had that gap, talked to parents said, yeah, let's get him tested. They did some testing, people did the testing and said, this would never have shown up. But at some point, this is really going to make a difference to him. And gave him some strategies. And he's a boy who, again, did fine in 8th grade, got those strategies between 8th and 9th grade, and excelled in the high school. And not just excelled academically, he also, everything else clicked for him. And the father said to me, look, they said there's no way we would have necessarily picked that up because he was good enough, he's doing fine in classes. And again, there were just a couple of things that he was having trouble with, but he was compensating in so many other ways we didn't notice. So sometimes we pick some of that up. Other times we get scores where, hey, the cognitive are pretty low and the achievements are very high, and we try to figure out what that means. And a lot of times that's your overachiever. That's your guy who just is working really hard, doing well that way. And again, that's a good thing. We love hard workers. And try to figure out, hey, is this going to matter at any point? Probably not. But again, just have the conversation. So it just gives us some information. For a lot of the students, it doesn't give us any new information that we probably didn't know. But for some, it does give us some new information. So that's why we use it. And the third reason we do the test is, for the last, I don't know, 3-4 decades or something like that, they've used this test with incoming ninth graders for merit scholarships. So there are merit scholarships offered as you come into the high school. And when we started, first year we had the 7th and 8th grade, we had 8th graders going to high school, I said, are they going to be eligible for merit scholarships? And like, wow, it's really a recruiting tool. I said, yeah, but you can't penalize them because they've been here for a year. So they use this, and some of them, there are very, very significant merit scholarships in some cases. Some, it can be as high as a 50% scholarship for 4 years. And again, you have to score at the very top of the thing to do that. And then there are a couple, I don't know, sometimes it's 3 levels, sometimes there's 2 levels. It changes every year. But sometimes it's $2,000 scholarship a year for 4 years, $2,500 or $1,800. The amount of money they have varies, so it does vary from year to year. I want to be very clear on this. The way the system, the merit scholarship system works, they have to get whatever the threshold score is on the HSPT. And usually I think it's almost always, and maybe it could, but it can vary, so I don't want to be quoted necessarily. This is not factual, but this is what it tends to be, is the 90th percentile on the national composite score. So you'll get a score, there's lots of scores on the sheet, and sometimes it's hard to find which one you're looking for, but it's the composite score, the national percentile. And they have to be in the 90th percentile or above. You go up as high as 99th percentile. Again, the 99th percentile is usually the threshold for those really big scholarships. In years we had a donor, so they were called the Shield scholarships. I'm not sure what they're called now. So you have to be at that, whatever that number is. And I'm going to say it's 90. And then they look at grades and sort of behavioral record, etc. to factor that in. But if you don't hit the threshold score, it doesn't matter what the grades are. Okay, so it's not like it's a sliding scale. Hey, if you have all A's, you can be at the 85th percentile. If you have all B's, you have to be at the 95th percentile. It's 90, then you're in the pool. And you have to have, what I would say is, you have to have great scores at 90th percentile above, and good grades. All right? Great scores and good grades. So every year we had some, I think last year we had 7 kids get like 87th percentile, 88th percentile, 89th percentile. I always feel badly for them. They've just missed. And then I think it tends to be, just to throw out numbers, I think last year we had about 36 students hit in the 90th percentile or above, so got a merit scholarship. 2 years ago we had closer to 50. And so somewhere, I would say usually it's around 40 students every year hit that threshold. They get invited to a breakfast sometime in March. So you get a letter. And the letters usually come out in early March. So you're going to get the scores back in January. The admissions office is then doing other things, and eventually they get to that, and they send out a letter, congratulates him on receiving a merit scholarship. He gets invited to a breakfast, and they come to the breakfast on that day in March. And we get photos of them all. And you all get invited to the breakfast, so it's very nice. Let me just tell you one thing. It's not great. I don't like things that divide the class in some way. I mean, you have guys, and this is what I say, if your son tends to be a pretty good test taker, you should encourage him to do some preparation for this. Because if he doesn't, and he misses it, and all his friends, because he's hanging out with that same group of friends, and all his friends get invited to the breakfast, and he didn't, he's going to be pretty disappointed that time. Now, some of your sons are going to work hard, and they will also just have a bad day, or maybe they have a great day, it's just not good enough. And they'll miss out. Here's one thing I've done for the past 10 years. I always look at the list of the guys who are probably in the 80s, who have very, very high grades. and I invite them down to my office. There's usually a group of about 15 kids or so. The guys who I feel just missed, and who usually hang out with a bunch of guys who will be getting a letter. I invite them down to my office and I just say, hey, good news, bad news. And I do it together because for most of them I want them to see, when 5 of their friends have said, did you get a letter, did you get a letter, did you get a letter? I want them to see they're not the only kid that didn't get a letter. And that they were really, and I say to them, hey, look around this room. It's just as likely that the speaker at graduation comes from the top 10 in the class is going to come from the guys in this room as it is from the guys who get the merit scholarships. Because this is a group of really good, really hardworking students. Some of them appreciate that. There's always someone every year who doesn't appreciate that. And I always say, look, if you're angry about this, great, you should be angry. It's not, and that's fine. Let's talk about it. You can blame me or whatever, but let's talk about it. It is the system it is. You have to get this score. And what was it Churchill said about democracy? It's the worst form of government in the world except for all the others. We could say, you could draw a line on a GPA, and then you're saying, that teacher had rounded up to 89.4 to a 90 and give him an A minus. There's always going to be people that miss. No matter what system we use, there are going to be people who miss that cutoff. And this is the system they've used for decades now, and they're going to stick with it. I don't have a whole lot to do with the system. So you don't be mad at me. I tell the kids they don't be mad at me because they don't know who else to be mad at. But anyways, hey, if your son does well on the test, you're going to be really happy. If your son doesn't, you're going to be disappointed. He'll be disappointed. That's the test. Tracy's going to talk a little bit about preparation for it. If your son wants to try to prepare for it. A couple things. We'll talk to them about it. I've actually had an HSPT word of the day. We're up to the E's. I spelled the word wrong today in the announcement. We send out the announcements. Ephemeral's the one today. Yesterday was a FEEP, which is EFF. This is EPH. I kept the EFF. Anyways, not a good word. But anyways, I've been sending out and saying, hey, here's the word of the day. And sometimes I say put it in a sentence. Sometimes I ask a weird question they have to answer with the word in it. I try to do it a little different every day. Sometimes it was, hey, send me a picture of something that represents this. About 4 kids anywhere from 1 to about 6 kids on average have been responding to it. And I give out prizes, what is it, Starburst or Skittles, pencil stickers. So I'm trying to get them aware of what this is. But anyway, so we do that, and we'll talk to them. Sometimes we get as a little bit closer. A number of years ago, right here in this room, we were having this parent coffee, and one of the parents said, hey, I know I can't get him to study for it. And I'm not asking you to run a class, because we don't, some places have classes, you can take an HSPT prep class, I'm not saying you need to do that. He said, could you do a club or something? So for years now, we've done an after-school club. In November, sports kind of closed down. We're always looking for more things to do. We've been doing it after school. We've been doing it during flex. Some days it's more on the math. So a couple math teachers will run the math stuff. And really, in the club, all it is they do practice tests. And they talk about some of the questions, and they do it in groups. And so it's not teaching them strategies. Like you take a test prep course, they're going to teach you strategies. But this is, sometimes we'll have 30 kids in the room after school doing it. And they sort of build some camaraderie around it. We call it HSPT Club. And, and again, a lot of them are waiting for the train anyway, so they've got an hour to kill, and they'll do this for 45 minutes. And I think the 2 most important things for a lot of the guys is familiarity with the questions. Just knowing what kind of questions are going to be asked. And then the second one is pacing. And particularly on the reading section. Our guys will often say, I ran out of time. So it's those 2 things, and that's what the club allows them to do by taking practice tests, is they get used to, they see what the question's like, and they get used to the pacing. The other thing we'll tell the students is get a good night's sleep 2 nights before and the night before. That's probably the most important thing you can do to help your son do well on the test. Because again, it goes about 3 hours between by the time they take all 5 tests, and they just wear down. So anything you can do that, you know, good breakfast, all those things. We try to make it, we do it in the morning, that's why we miss the all-school mass, so we can get it done in the morning. We try to set them up for the best, try to make it as relaxing as possible, get them in, do the test, and then, you know, they have a break, and they have lunch, and they have a mass in the afternoon. It's called the high school placement test. It has nothing to do, almost nothing to do, with placement in high school classes. That's just the name that the test company calls it. So if he scores terribly, it's not going to impact, for the most part, his placement in classes next year. And I say for the most part because there's 2 ways. And you'll find out more about this as we get into course selection and information in the spring. But 2 opportunities next year for honors level courses. He's in Algebra 1 this year. There was geometry or geometry honors. He's in geometry honors this year. It'll be in Algebra 2 honors most likely next year. Pre-algebra is just into Algebra 1, so there's no honors or non-honors there. And then language, there's level 2 and 2 honors in the high school. If he changes to a new language, he'll go to level 1. That's going to be, those determinations on honors or not are going to be almost exclusively made by the teacher recommendation based on his performance in class this year. Teachers know the class, they know the expectations. That's going to be done that way. On a rare occasion, we're really trying to figure out where they should, you know, it's sort of hard to tell, hey, this way or this way. You know, if the HSPT is strong in math, it could push them up. And it's really more about pushing them up than it is going to hold them back if he does really poorly. It could, but again, it's not going to affect his course placement next year. It's pencil paper and filling in the bubbles. No essay. Yep, no essay. Just bubbles. Right? One kid will bubble wrong on one of the sections. And sometimes it'll mess up 6 answers, and sometimes it'll mess up 30 answers, depending on when he starts bubbling wrong. It's going to happen. You know, so I know sometimes we just, you know, anything with a standardized test, you've got to take it all into consideration. After the first couple of years with the language being low, we did some things to put more grammar into the curriculum, and that had some results as well that were positive. You know, and you know, we look at overall scores. I track, you know, the average every year, where our top quartile is. We look at the improvement from the ISEE to the HSPT, just as not that that's the same test, but just as a sense of tracking over time. So we look at all that. If in a year something seems really off, then we start to say, hey, why? If a student seems really off to what we think, we ask why. If the whole grade is off in a way that we think doesn't make sense, we start to ask why and look at our curriculum and stuff like that. If your son is sick that day, don't send him in to take the test. He's not going to do well. We'll figure a way to get him to take the test on a different day, but that doesn't make sense. Get him a good night's sleep, get him some rest, have him come in, take the test, do well. And we had one kid 1 year, arguably our top student, was probably 10 years ago, and did fine. I think he got like in the 80th percentile. And I said to him, hey, what happened on the testing? I was really sick that day. I was blowing my nose the whole time. I just didn't feel well. I said, oh, you shouldn't have come in and taken it. So just, keep that in mind. It's December. A lot of them will have the sniffles in December. If it really feels lousy, that's not a time to take the test. How many hours does the average student spend on studying for the HSPT? Not many is my guess. If your son tests well, encourage him, because if he does prepare and he can get it, hey, I would love it if they all had a merit scholarship. It would make me look great. And I will talk it up a little bit with them. There are guys who are great kids, great students, but just not great test takers. They don't think the way test takers think. Hey, one of the reasons to do the HSPT also is it's low stakes. A couple of years from now, they're going to be taking the SATs or the ACT, and that's going to be high stakes. This is an opportunity for them to get just to see what a standardized test is look like and be in an environment of a standardized test and get practice at it. And to look at that and say, hey, wow, he did put in some effort, and he didn't do that wrong. Okay, well then we know, you know what? He's going to take a test. He's going to take an SAT prep course before he takes the SATs. We're going to work on that. If he puts no effort into this, you don't know what the results tell you. So if you can encourage him, and I encourage him, I will tell them the same thing. It gives us better information if they put more effort in. Some of the kids really do put effort in. Some of the kids don't put any effort in whatsoever. So, and again, if I'm a guy who is happy here, doing well, loving every piece of what I've got going on, but I know I don't test well, maybe I'm going to put my time into other things that matter to me and not do that. And I can't fault a kid for that. Tracy, you want to just...
Sure. Mine is short and sweet because when we talk about adolescence, I'll be up here for a long time. Just a couple things that I want to touch base about that one thing Bob didn't say that he thinks boys shouldn't complain about, but I will say as their guidance counselor, they have to wear a white shirt and tie that day because it's a liturgy day, and they will, over half of them will complain about the fact that they have to wear a white shirt and tie while they sit for 3 hours taking a test, so just prepare yourself for that. It's a good reminder that they should be in a white shirt and tie when they leave that morning, and that is a little bit different than their normal routine, so I think it's something that's good to know.
I'm going to defend myself. We let them untuck the shirt and loosen the tie. They can survive.
Like I said, he didn't want me to mention it. I'm going on script. So that's number one. Number two, the blue sheet that you have, it has a bunch of links on it, which are not obviously clickable on a piece of paper. They'll be in the everyday update. But that does provide you some rather up-to-date examples of practice tests. That if your son if you want to push him a little bit, if he's pushing himself, because I think what you'll see is once we talk to them, the boys that have that motivation and want to see how they do are going to start to push themselves and each other. And how are you preparing? Are you going to HSPT club? And they, our boys get competitive about basically everything. So that has some tests. And there's the third one is a full length, basically, HSPT. And one thing that I'll tell the boys when we talk to them, and that Bob will probably mention too, is that if you are really trying and you're taking it seriously, is to practice at least one section timed. As you probably know now, a year into a Root Bay or your first year in a Root Bay, we don't have that many tests anymore. They don't take as many sitting down for 40 minutes and your test and the bell rings and you have to leave. And this is a timed, all the sections are timed. And so I think if they are working on it, they probably haven't done that since they took their test for Root Bay. It's just a good thing to practice with them is to set a timer, and I'll talk to them about that if that's something you're taking seriously. Even in HSPT club, things are timed, but it's a little bit looser. And the test itself is proctored with the teacher, with the timer. It's very black and white with that. So that's what I would say. There's also test books. I have test books. I can make copies for the boys if they want a paper copy to try. And probably the two other main things I would just say, one, if your son currently receives extended time for like regular tests or for, we've done this language final or the math final, you'll be getting an email from me in the weeks up, like about the week before, just to check in with him and see if he wants it. And we do run an extended time room with me and another counselor for the guys that get that. It does actually make their day quite long. It's a 3-hour test, so it makes it 4.5 hours. It's a long chunk of time, but we work with them. We eat lunch actually at one point because you can't go that long and you need your brain to think, and I need them to stop complaining. And the last thing I would say is if your son if he gets anxious about things, especially academic things, one, I probably already know that and have worked with him, but keep an eye on them. When we have the assembly, we talk to all the boys, and some of them, your son's there immediately in their heads, like even if they know it's not counting for everything, it's not how they get into BCHIGH, and they're already here, they're already spinning of, oh my God, this test is coming. Let me know, let their advisor know, tell them to stop by. I don't mind talking them through it. Sometimes they don't want to listen to you anymore, which we'll talk about at that adolescence one, and I don't mind talking them through a little bit of where the stakes are and helping them prepare for it. Because I think for some of our boys, it just naturally brings up anxiety to take a test like that. So those would be my little pieces. Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you.